You are listening to the ADHD Support Talk Radio podcast. ADHD Support Talk Radio is sponsored by ADDclasses.com. Sign up now for a free webinar at www.addclasses.com. And this is your co-host, Tara McGillicuddy.
And with that, I would like to welcome back Alan Brown to ADHD Support Talk Radio. In just a moment, Alan and I are going to be having a discussion about productivity apps and ADHD, whether they're helpful or whether they're time wasters or maybe something in between. So welcome back, Alan. I'm so glad you joined us again.
It's awesome to be here as always, Tara. Thanks for having me.
Okay, before we get started talking about productivity apps, can you let our listeners know a bit about yourself and how they get in touch with you after the show?
You bet. I'm someone who was diagnosed late in life at the age of 36. The light went off, and it was a great thing to have been diagnosed. And when I was diagnosed, I ran around looking for some books to kind of learn coping solutions. And I bought a bunch of books and got them home and then realized, hey, I can't read that good. I remembered that I couldn't read. So I created videos, instructional interactive videos, and they're called ADD Crusher. You might have heard of them. And then more recently I launched a TV show, a weekly TV show on which Tara was a guest very recently, called Crusher TV. And this is a TV show where we teach brain hacks, just simple ways that you can change the way you view things or, change an input to your brain that can open the door to greater productivity, less stress, less drama, et cetera. And you can find that at crushertv.com.
Yes, Alan, you have great resources. And interestingly enough, the reason I wanted you on today's show is because you had written a blog post about productivity apps. And I'm like, I thought it would be awesome to talk about on ADHD Support Talk Radio. So, are productivity apps harmful, helpful, useful when it comes to adults with ADHD?
Well, I think you said it right. It's somewhere in between. It kind of depends on who you are. And I guess to frame this out, I would say what I often say, which is if there's one thing we ADDers never have enough of, it's time, right? We never. Yeah. I just had a little bit more time. So if there's one thing we shouldn't be wasting, it's time, right?
Definitely.
And when we see some kind of productivity app or some other kind of solution that promises us, oh, this is going to save you a lot of time or this is going to make your life easier, et cetera, we'll use our kind of classic impulsivity to go, oh, I'm going to get that. That's going to be great. That's going to change everything. And many of us, me for sure, and I believe most ADDers, we will go out, we'll download that new app or something that somebody told us about, and then chances are it'll be such a hassle to learn it, or it'll be more difficult than we thought it was going to be. And at the end of the day, we're probably not going to end up using it. Now, I'll say that there are folks who, they can download an app and they can put it to use and use it fully, and then when version 2.0 comes out, they're all over that, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not one of them. And I think most ADDers are not. So in a way, I think productivity apps can be a false friend if you're not careful.
Yeah. Well, I know there's one that people keep recommending, and I'm not going to use the name of it because every time I do, I have somebody writing into me telling me to do a class on how to teach people how to use it. And I've spent more time looking at it, downloading it, trying to figure out what I can do with this than actually using it. So it's wasting my time and it's probably something that other people, maybe it's helped them, maybe it saved tons of time, frustration, but for me, I'm a prime example of somebody who's listened to everyone else, and I'm like, I don't know, it's on my phone. I probably spent 3 hours trying to figure out what I could do with it. So yeah, it wasted my time, and maybe somebody else, like you said, there are people that, found it useful, or maybe they took a class on how to use it more effectively, but that's not how I learn. Like, I'm more of a hands-on learner. I want it to do what it's going to do right away and be easy. I don't want to waste my time with it.
Yeah, well, you're talking my language, and I think you're talking the language, really, again, of most ADDers. So just to your point, you heard a lot. I'm not going to guess which app you're talking about, but I have a feeling I know which one. It may be any of a number of apps actually that people are talking about, and it's high productivity, blah, blah, blah. But here's some stats from a company called Localytics about productivity apps. 25% of apps that are downloaded are used just once after they're downloaded, all right? More than half are used fewer than 5 times, and only 1/3 of apps that we download are used more than 10 times. So think about this. Those apps that you downloaded and didn't use, or maybe spent a bunch of time trying to use or trying to incorporate in your life, 2/3 of them have probably wasted your time. They have cost you time. So, my kind of mantra on this is know yourself. Tara, obviously you say, I know myself and I know myself. And know yourself. If you are somebody who easily adapts these kinds of technologies and apps, great. But if you're not, kind of acknowledge it and just use that acknowledgement to maybe hold back next time you think, oh, I'm gonna totally do this app and I'm gonna make it work for me and blah blah blah. Save yourself some time.
Yeah. And just because somebody else loves it or somebody's paying a crap load of money to advertise it doesn't mean it's going to be helpful for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't be so app happy.
Well, and then I think I'll do, free teleseminars where people write it in what's the best app for ADHD? And it's like, what are you trying to do? Maybe are you trying to get on some place on time? Are you trying to remember your passwords? What are you trying to do? Maybe there is an app that can specifically help you with something very specific, but just because you have ADHD doesn't mean there's the best app for ADHD.
Yeah. And, another thing about apps, and it's kind of reflected in this data that I shared, is, if you're not using it on a regular, habitual basis, it's really not performing its function. Especially for productivity apps. Productivity apps are designed for you to incorporate them into your life on an ongoing basis so that they become part of everything you kind of do. So that's always tough for, I think, us ADDers, is to completely, adapt something and incorporate it almost organically into everything you do. Mm-hmm. Because we're impulsive, so we'll download it, but we're also kind of changing the way we do things, and we're flitting off to this and flitting off to that. And I think it's tough for us to really make some of these productivity apps truly work organically in our lives.
Yeah, I'm looking at my phone right now, and I don't really have that many extra apps on it, especially productivity ones. I use my calendar that came with the phone, and it's synced with Gmail. I don't want to add anything extra, and, I have, other apps on there which probably are more time wasters, but I know that, games and stuff like that, but I don't know, for me, it was more of a hassle trying to research it and find them, and you're just saying most of these things are not used that often. 25% of apps only used once after downloading it. That's really amazing.
Yeah, and you just maybe, because when you were talking about this, I just opened up my phone to look at the apps that I have. I probably use 5 of my 30 apps. Now, I'm always doing research on stuff, so I probably have more apps than most people. I probably have, 40 or 50 or 60 apps or so. But it made me realize another thing that's worth stating, which is, you've got social media apps that also eat a lot of your time. Right? So just be aware of those. Your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. We ADDers are very much prone to spending too doggone much time on these apps. Anytime there's a little bit of downtime, I'm waiting online for my coffee at Starbucks. So, let me just open this and check my Twitter feed or my this or my that. And you end up wasting a lot of time that, frankly, could actually be just spent keeping your mind quiet or just thinking,
So you're suggesting we erase most of our apps off our phone?
Well, definitely, be aware. And sure, if there are a bunch of apps that you've downloaded in the past, and you haven't used them, barely or at all since you downloaded them, they might, if they're still sitting on your phone, they might be kind of tempting you to go, oh, come on, try me out again.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do it. So, clean those things off. Get rid of them.
Well, then if there's the ones that we don't use but we get notifications for, and those interrupt our thoughts and are disruptive, so those would make sense to get rid of.
Great point. This is a lot like, making a habit of unsubscribing from some email thing every single day. Just unsubscribe from one thing every day that you don't need. And this is a great example where if you're getting notifications from an app that you are not using, that's your cue to get rid of that app. And just think about also, we've almost all got smartphones now. Think about how nice it would be to look at your phone and only have these core apps that you really do use. It's just visually more pleasing. And you know, when you are confronted by nothing more than a little bit of blue sky on your phone, that can actually be a nice little brain hack that can keep your brain a little happier.
Well, I just know I get distracted trying to open apps sometimes, and it took me a while to realize I can ask Siri to find it, or I can go to the search page and type it in, but it's because I have too many things on my, you know, or it's not organized effectively, but like I don't need Candy Crush on there. I use it, but that's not a great thing. That's probably ruins my productivity. But there's other ones like that, you know, I'm like, why is that on there? It's cluttering. It's making it hard for me to find an app. And I could have a bad ADD day, and I could be like, okay, I want to open such and such and get distracted, never go back to the original app that I intended to use. It may have, you know, so apps can be destructive. I mean, they can be very helpful. I'm sure there are people listening right now getting annoyed, like, oh, I have this great app that's helped me. But for a lot of us, you know, the apps can be more of a nuisance than be helpful.
Yeah. Well, and then for whatever it's worth, too, they do use up, the ones that you're not using are using up memory on your phone. And they might even be draining your battery a little bit if they're operating back.
Yeah.
So maybe a good thing to do is just, you know, sometimes sit down with your cup of coffee in the morning when you got a couple minutes and just take an honest look at your apps. And then again, as we kind of started this off, be cognizant of whether you're the type of person who really does go all in and really own an app once you download it. Or are you more like me and Tara, and you know what? I download apps thinking there's going to be a miracle, you know, solution, and then they just kind of sit there. Well, you know, think about that before you hit get this app next time.
Yeah. Or are you going to be are you the type of person that might take a class or hire a coach to help you figure out the apps? I mean, I'm not that person. I don't want to invest my time in, but there are some people that, and I know we have two great people in the ADHD community, Jay Carter and Eric Tivers, who know the apps in and out. I mean, if you're someone who really wants to and thinks they might be helpful, you know, maybe you do, you know, take a class with one of them or hire them to consult you and teach you. But I mean, those are things to think about. Do you really want to invest the time and money into having somebody else help you learn it? Or, you know, like you said, think about those apps. Think about, you know, whether they're going to waste your time or truly help you.
And it's funny you mentioned Jay Carter and Eric Tivers, because those are two guys that immediately come to my mind when I think of people who totally do get apps, who totally, you know, they can go, if there's some new app that just came out, they will know all about it. And Eric, for instance, he will go and try it, and he'll figure out how to make it work. And if it works for him, he'll share that with other folks. But, you know I don't have his brain or Jay Carter's brain, so I know I got my brain.
Well, and then they both in classes at ADD Classes, and I think it was Jay Carter who did the most recent one, you know, back in the fall, and talked about a password app. And that's like the opposite with me. That's one app or program that would make sense for me to have, because I have so many things and I forget my passwords. And years ago, I could have the same password for everything now. There's all these different rules. So that might be an app or program that I download, maybe pay a little bit money for, and it may like save me time, energy, and reduce my stress. So there are some type of apps that can be helpful and really do what they're supposed to do. And I think Jay, you know, the classes in the ADD audio library for people who might want to listen to it. I mean, he has like a system on how to find the apps and what to look for and that type of thing, instead of just all of a sudden downloading the app and, you know, playing around with it for 3 hours and wasting time. So there are things to look at, but like you and I are very busy people, and if it's not intuitive, it's not easy, we've pretty much figured, you know, why waste your time?
Indeed. And, you know, I want to reiterate also, you know, we all are walking around with our phones in our hands. They're like, you know, glued to our hands. I just saw a recent, Rick Green from Totally ADD just posted a real funny cartoon. You've got these angels up in heaven, and a couple of new arrivals are there. These angels, and they're just staring at their hands. And the one guy who's kind of been there for a while, he says to the other guy, yeah, the new arrivals, they just show up, they just come up here, and they're just staring at their hands, not knowing what to do. because now they're in heaven, and all of a sudden they don't have their phone. You know, but think about that. And I always tell folks, again, when you have a little bit of downtime and you get the urge to reach into your pocket or your pocketbook to grab that phone to just because you want to keep your mind busy, give some thought to quieting your mind and just being, because what happens when you do that and you are not constantly occupied by your social media or your email or some other app is the window to creativity and ideas actually opens up when you do that. Yeah. That's why you get ideas in the shower. That's why you get ideas when you're exercising, because when your mind actually gets a chance to quiet down, which we ADDers never want to do. We want to keep going. What's the next thing? What's the next thing, right? But if you can, and I do this, I keep my phone always in my inside jacket pocket, and sometimes I just catch myself reaching for it, and I go, hold on a second, I'm actually going to stop, and I'm going to allow my mind to get quiet. And when you do that, you come up with ideas, your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate goes down, and you might even crack a smile.
Wow. Yeah, so shut it down. So whether it's the phone or the computer, and with the phone, shut it all the way down. Sometimes just putting it in airplane mode, but try shutting it down a couple times through the day.
Yep.
So, Alan, is there anything else about apps that you haven't discussed today that you thought might be helpful? Is there anything? It sounds like we've been very, I don't want to say negative about it, but are there any positives that when it comes to apps, are there any apps that you have found have been helpful for you when it comes to time management or productivity?
I really am, and you and I were actually talking about this recently. I'm all about the calendar. I use my calendar on my phone in part as a constant reminder, an alarm clock, and a to-do list. So, for instance, knowing that you and I were going to be getting on the radio show today, I have, like 2 reminders populating my calendar saying prep for Tara, and then another one coming up an hour later, prep for Tara. So I use calendar more than anything, and of course it syncs with my laptop calendar, et cetera. But in closing, I guess I would say that your brain is the most badass, powerful app in the universe, and I'm not being facetious. I really mean it. And we are, because we're ADDers, we're always looking for something to help our brain, to help us get things done, to help us stay organized, et cetera. But, I say this to our audience, what you're doing right now by listening into ADDclasses.com or taking up, other learning experiences and keeping your eyes and ears open to new ideas and to what's going on in the ADHD world, you're sharpening your brain app. And if you keep doing that, especially if you're not an app kind of savvy person like I'm not and Tara's not, know that you can work your brain. You can hack your brain in a lot of ways and get a lot more productive by just tuning this amazing little piece of software up in our cranium.
Well, thank you. And Alan, what is the best way to get in touch with you for people who are listening right now?
Well, come visit ADDcrusher.com, and if you like what you see there, by the way, if you like what you see there, we have a special promo code exclusively for Tara, and it's TARAMC, Tara MC, and you get 15% off any purchase at Crusher at ADD Crusher. And also come check out Crusher TV. I would love for folks to see the episode that Tara did with us. It was about negative thinking, how to whoop negative thinking. And we've got we're actually got a new episode coming up tonight. It's about play, the power of getting out and playing. And we just do a different topic every Monday night. We're on our 27th episode now. It's a big hit. We're getting great feedback. And come and check that out at crushertv.com. And if you're interested in being in touch with me, send an email to info@crushertv.com. And we promise we will get back to you.
And the episode I did on negativity, you can watch